There we go. Music to my ears.
Before we start, I think it's important to mention that Simon's either on the shear or he's flying a helicopter. We're not sure.
There you go. Very good.
I couldn't resist, Simon. I couldn't resist. No, I'm sorry.
If you're going to speak to me, you have to at least say, over.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, so Zok the Mishna. We got some Geschmacke Gemaras the next few days. So let's see. We're up to, right. We got to the Mishna, bottom of Mem Zayin beis. Yeah. Okay, so Zok the Mishna. Hareini alecha cherem. The guy says, I'm a cherem on you. Right? So we said a lashon of cherem is a lashon that you use normally to answer things in the Beis Hamikdash. Right? The Ran says it means that as Hana should be on him like this or Hana of the Bedek Habayis. Right? So if he does that, so Amudar also, the person who made the neder, meaning he didn't make the neder, the one who made the neder on him is then he's also, right? Meaning if I go to Naphtali, now that Naphtali just walked in and got me a drink. So if I made a neder onto Naphtali, I made a cherem on him, so then he's also. Harei at alai cherem. And if Naphtali says unto me that he's making me a cherem, so then haneider also, then Naphtali can't get enough from me. That's pretty straightforward. And then hareini olecha ba'at olai. If a guy says I'm onto you and you're onto me, then they're both awesome, right? Which the Rosh says is pashut. It's just the Mishna is just teaching that just to lead into the next case. So again, if a guy says we're using our example. I say I'm also to give benefit to Naphtali, and he's also to give benefit to me. That we're both also. But however, Shneim with Torah b'davar shel oile Bavel. Both of them are mutter with anything that has to do with the oile Bavel, which is basically when they came up from Bavel. So they made things open to the public, for the public to be able to use. So that doesn't belong to anybody. So since it doesn't belong to anybody, so therefore even those that have cherems are allowed to benefit from it. On Talmud Aleph, Basurim b'davar shel oisa'ir, but things that belong to that city, that's not. So meaning public baths, public parks, these type of things, that would be usher for both of them because everybody in the city owns it, right? And since everybody owns it, so therefore you're not allowed to. These guys are not allowed to benefit from it, right? We had that also a couple of days ago. What is considered the things that are oile bavel that they both can use? Go in harabayis, v'hazoros, v'habor shebe'em tza'aderech, the harabayis, and all the outer yards of the harabayis, and they used to have these boiras in the middle of the street so that people can drink from that. All of those are considered like hefker. I don't know if hefker is the right word, but they're considered like they don't belong to anybody. So therefore, even though they have nedarim against each other, they're allowed to.
They're public works. They're publicly owned.
But publicly owned, does that mean that each person has a chelik in it? I don't know.
It means society has a chelik in it.
Right, so that's the thing. So I don't know if it's municipal, then if everybody that pays taxes, let's say, owns it or has a part in it, then they can't use it. But if it's totally hefker, how about I'm thinking now. How about what do you call those things where they hide, the spies hide, they can't arrest them? What do you call it? I watch too many movies.
Embassies?
Embassies, yeah.
The embassies is part of the other
Are
country.
run by the country.
Embassy is part of the other country.
Yeah, so,
Why don't
okay,
you
so
use the definition of Rishus Rabim?
no, because no, they can't.
No.
Rishus Hashanah, that means the guy has to stay home. That means the guy has to stay home.
No, Rishus Rabim is a shot that everybody's allowed to go there. Everybody's allowed to go there without anybody or any group having their own rishus over, their own ownership over it. So these things here are rishus rabim, the beis of hekdesh.
No, but you're saying that's
rabim.
what
Nobody owns it.
Right.
So board rishus rabim is also nobody owns it.
Okay, so maybe that's what you're saying. It's a rishus. I mean, you're saying rishus rabim. That would be mutter.
That's right. That's right.
So okay. So then, but things that are sort of open to the public but privately owned, that is not allowed.
Yeah, that's privately owned.
But it's
No,
not privately
everybody-
owned because it's owned by everybody.
No, everybody's a partner in the shul, but not everybody's a partner in Central Park. Central Park, the people don't own Central Park.
I mean, without the government involved, right? Right.
Yeah. So I don't know where the parks come into this. Is that considered like Rishus Rabim, like you're saying, or I don't know. Okay, whatever it is, fine. So that's what it is. So then, meaning Oile Bavel are these type of things. So what about that city that you're not allowed to use? We're going to Rechava. So Rechava is like the center of town. Merchats, bathhouses, beis hakneses, shuls, teva, svarim, and the teva and the svarim, right? So you're not allowed to go into the library. You're not allowed to go into shul. If you have two guys that have a neder against each other, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to benefit from it. Right now, there's a lot of raid on this because what happened to mitzvahs lav lahenes nitnu? Right? It's a mitzvah to learn Torah. It's a mitzvah to have svarim and a svarim shelf.
You get hana, so what is? But you do actually get you get hana from it. It's lav lahenes. That's not why it was given, but you get enough from it. That's why you can't learn certain things on Tisha B'Av, right? Because you get enough from it.
That makes you besimcha.
Okay.
I don't know. So you're saying hana is simcha? I guess. I don't know. But what we're saying, mitzvahs lav lahenes. No, the mafarshim all ask on this. It's mitzvahs lav lahenes. So, do you make a shechion? The Paiskim, the Magen Avram says, mitzvahs lav lahenes. Therefore, if you get new svarim, right? If you get new svarim, should you make a shechion? You're very happy. You got a new set of whatever. Yeah. You make a shechion on that. Magen Avram says no. Mitzvahs lav lahenes. Right? Oh, I just hopped. In the middle of the kitzur shir, a guy texted me, should he make a bracha shechiyanu on the new svarim shelves? I can't believe it. I didn't put two and two together. Mama, that's what we just, right? It's part of the same shaili. Same mitzvahs lav lahenes nidu. From here, it's the mashma that that he would be mechuyev to. Right? But anyways, so there's so Rabbanan, what you're saying, there's in the Hakdama to the Eglei Tal. I think we discussed it a few times. In the Hakdama to the Eglei Tal on the Lamates Malachas, hence the word Tal, right? Lamates. He says that in order the part of the mitzvah of Limud Torah is to get hana from it. If it's not sweet for you, then you're not makayim the mitzvah. Right? Meaning normally in regular mitzvahs, you got to do it even if you're not you got to do it because you have to do it. Not for enjoyment, but Torah is not like that. So that's what a lot of Mefarshim say. And I think they say also with Tisha B'Av. That's why you say Tisha B'Av you can't learn, like you're saying, because there's a part of the mitzvah of Limud Torah is to enjoy it. Right? So therefore it's okay, so that's why.
So what do you do if you don't?
What?
What do you do if you don't?
What if you don't enjoy it? Stop learning the daf.
You say Ketairas.
We'll make Naftali enjoy it. We'll say it's a skula for parnasa. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the tumult with that part of the Gemara. Anyways, so again, so if they made a neder on each other, so anything that's from the Oile Bavel, so that's mutter, because that's considered like hefker. But anything that's part of the town, that you're not allowed. Then the Mishna says, "V'kaisev chelkal Nasi." And what you do is he writes over his chelik to the Nasi, which the Gemara is going to say exactly what that means. You write over your portion to the Nasi, right? Rabbi Yehuda Aimer. So what does this mean? You write over your portion to the Nasi. Echad kaisev leNasi ve'echad kaisev lehedjit. Whether you write it over to a Nasi or whether you write it over to a hedjit, meaning what's going to happen here? So you have these two guys that can't go to shul anymore, right? Because there's a neder against them. And they can't take a shower because they can't go to the bathhouse. So how are you gonna fix this? Right? So the way you do it is that I would, let's say, go over to my friend. Let's say the neder's on me, or I made the neder on somebody else. So both of us would go over and give over our portion of the bathhouses and of the shul. We'd give it over to somebody else, and therefore it's no longer ours. And then our friend would go in there. Right, that's how you have to say it. So Rabbi Yehuda saying, but you don't have to give it over to the Nasi. You can give it over to the Nasi or to somebody else. And the Tanakama says, no, it has to go over to the Nasi. Okay, ma bein kaisel leNasi lekaisel lehedjit. What's the difference who you write it over to? Meaning if you're giving over your portion so that your friend could benefit from it, so what's the difference? So he says, Shah kaisel leNasi ein tzarich lizakas. Those that write it over to the Nasi, you don't have to be mezaket. The hedjit tzarich lezakas, but you're giving over to a hedjit, then you need somebody to actually be koined for you. Meaning, I can't just go say, okay, I'm giving up my portion of the bathhouse to Naftali Liner. Right? I can't just say that. Somebody has to make a kinyan on his behalf. If he's here, so he could do it, but if he's not here, you got to have somebody purchase it on his behalf. So if you're doing it to a cut, to a hedjit, so then you have to have somebody be kind it from you. But if you're giving it over to the Nasi, then that's enough. It's enough to just hand it over to the municipality, and it's not, you don't have to have somebody actually represent the Nasi. That's the way Rabbi Yehuda says it. And for both of them, you do need to be kind it on behalf of the Nasi or the hedjit, and and the only reason why they said you should give it over to the Nasi is because that's the most common thing to do, which is just give it over to the Nasi, and then the Nasi has your control, and therefore your portion. And since the Nasi has your portion, so then it's okay. Then it's not. Then they could benefit from the thing, right? You know where this comes up, just as a mushal for this, is if you want to buy somebody a present for a kli, or you want to buy somebody a utensil. So a lot of poskim say that you can't toivel the utensil on their behalf because it's only somebody who's actually the one that's going to be using it is the one that has to be toivel it, not me. As let's say I'm buying for Naftali, I'm buying him a utensil. It's really more of a Purim sugya. Like, people want to buy glass things and put the food into the glass. So should they toivel, should they not? So some people can say there's no point in them toiveling it because it's not theirs for eating. So what should they do? So what you do is you tell them, well, give the glass over to somebody else on behalf of the recipient, and then you could toivel it because that recipient was kinded through somebody else. They were kinded, right? So that's what's going on over here too.
Well, I can't toivel something and give it to you because it's not yours yet.
Because meaning yours.
But you buy stuff that doesn't need tefillah. You're raising savings, so it doesn't need tefillah. How's that?
No, that's because it's owned by a yid.
So now it's owned by a yid. I bought it.
No, but it never needed, when it was created, it was owned by a yid. It never needed tefillah. If you go to a store and they pre-toivel everything for you, that doesn't work.
It doesn't work?
That for sure doesn't work. The stores that toivel it for you, first you have to pay for it, then they can toivel as your shliach.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. So meaning the same. So some places can say that with giving a present also. So what you do is you're kind it through somebody else. So that's what has to go on here too. Rabbi Yehuda holds only if a hedjit's being kind of your portion of the bathhouses. do you have to do it through somebody else? The Nasi doesn't need, right? And the Chacham say no, they both need. Fine. Yeah.
If I buy a kli for myself and then toivel it and then decide to give it to someone else, that tefillah should work, no?
That works, because when you toivel it for you, it's a kli achila. Yeah, fine.
And no one came up with a harama on this?
Nobody made a
No
harama.
one came up with.
This is a harama. This is a harama.
No, for if I want to buy you something.
Yeah, so you kind of for somebody else. To do somebody else, you kind of. What's the big deal? Makne to somebody else on behalf.
Can I make a decision as mine and then title it and then?
Oh, you want to do that shtick? You could do that. Okay.
Why, Naftali, you saw the Ran already? We're talking about harama.
What?
That's the hekdesh of the Mishna. Well, we didn't get there yet, but yeah.
Yeah, Rabbi Yehuda. I remember Rabbi Yehuda says, "Ein anshe galil tzrichen lichtoi." The anshe galil do not have to write over their portion of the bathhouses, etc. Shekvar kosvu aviseyan al yedein, because their fathers already gave up all their portions, right? Which the Gemara is going to say. We'll see in the Gemara in a minute. Okay, so again, that's the Mishnah. So just to review the Mishnah, if two guys make nedarim against each other, they're not allowed to use any of the public places that are like hefker. They're allowed to use, but things that are not like hefker, like a bathhouse and the shul and the aron kodesh and svarim, that they're not allowed to use. So they have to write it over to either the Nasi or they write it over to their friend, and then just a Machlokes of how they have to write it over to them. And then Rabbi Yehuda says Anshe Galil didn't need to do this because Anshe Galil, they will mafker everything. So Gemara asks, "Amay mitzvah?" Yeah.
If both parties write a shtar matana to whoever, the Nasi, whoever it is, can they be kinda each other's shtar for the Nasi? Or is that called a hano?
Why would they want to do that? Then what would be the point?
Why not? Well, they both want to have rishus to go into the shul.
Right.
So they want to give up they want to give up their own chelik in the shul.
Correct.
They're writing a shtar for the Nasi.
Right.
They're doing it together.
Right.
Can they? It needs three tzarich lezakus, right? So someone needs to be kind of the shtar matana.
You mean you want to be kind on behalf? Okay, but then that doesn't work because then you're right back where you started.
Why?
Because they're not allowed to be nene.
Yeah, I can't be nene from him, but it doesn't mean I can't be mahana him.
You mean you're just doing it out for the other one? I hear.
Yeah.
I hear. I'm not sure. Okay. I don't know. It's making things unnecessarily complicated, but that's what nedarim is. Right? Anyway.
I was going to say, the beginning of this Ran is straight up right for Aaron Horowitz. He says, right? A regular person, I have to be worried that they talk asrid on everyone.
Right.
And he says, no one talks like that. The Ran says, everyone talks like that. I'm worried that everyone makes this. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so the Gemara asks, "Amay mitzvah? Why is it also?" Now, I can't understand what the Gemara's havamina is here, because the Gemara said, the Mishnah says you write it over to the Nasi. It's mashma that if you write, the Gemara is thinking now that if you write it over to the Nasi, you're not allowed to use the shul. Right? So the Gemara says, "Amay mitzvah, why is it also? You gave it over to the Nasi." So this is what you have to say. What is the takana in order to be able to use it? Yichtavu chalkan lenasi, then write over your chelik to the Nasi. Right? Okay, I don't know what the havamina was that's not pshat in the Mishnah, but there must be a good havamina. Again, so what?
The
why
lashon of the Mishnah is
mashma
that.
What?
The lashon of the Mishnah is mashma like that. He gives a whole list of things.
And then it
says
says
the Pasha way of reading the Mishnah is like that.
See, I don't know. See, by me, in my print, there's a nice space between V'hasvarim and V'hakoisiv in the Mishnah.
That's just printing.
I know, but I'm just saying, I that's why I looked at it like it was not a continuation.
Well, if I was trying to say what's the takana, I wouldn't just say v'hakaisu chalkin l'nasi.
That's true.
El
That's true, but
tzarech
that's not a-
nichtav l'nasi.
Yeah, okay, that's true. But that, I mean, that's not a kasha on the way Mishnayos are written.
No,
Right.
but it looks like a continuation of the list.
Yeah. Yeah. I could, okay, I hear. But anyway, so what?
Right about now, I'm missing the last 2 nights length of Dafin. Just putting it out.
Yeah. He's enjoying his last night before Peretz's return.
Right.
By the way, tomorrow night's Daf is all about Peretz. I'm just telling you right now.
Welcome home.
It's a mamish a welcome home for him. Tomorrow night is mamish. If it's said on the top of the Daf, this is talking about Peretz, it wouldn't surprise me. But anyways, so again, the Gemara is saying that you have to add words into the Mishnah that since everything is usher, the bathhouse and the shul, so the only way to get these guys to be able to go to shul or use the bathhouse is for them to write over their belongings to not the belongings, their chelik in the bathhouse to the Nasi. Fine, now we get a freebie, Rabbi Yehuda, because this is a long daf, so they put a freebie in. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, these next 6 lines are just a repeat from the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, echad kaisav leNasi, ve'echad kaisav lehedjed. You can write it over to Nasi or the Hedjed, ma bein kaisav leNasi lekaisav lehedjed. What's the difference between writing it over to the Nasi or to the Hedjed? So kaisav leNasi ain't tzarich lezakas. If you write it over to the Nasi, you don't have to be zaycha through somebody else. Kaisav lehedjed tzarich lezakas. Fine. So that's just for whatever reason why that's in there. I don't know. The people from Galil, they don't need to write over to the Nasi because by them they looked at it like everybody gave up their portion in all the shuls and all the bathhouses. Why? So Tana Rav Yehuda Aimer Anshe Galil kanterin hoyu. They were I don't know how they were fighters. It's a better word than that. They were
Contrarians.
Is that what that means? You think I hear.
Article says cantankerous.
And what does that mean? I know I get cantankerous sores in my mouth.
No, you have canker sores in your,
Oh.
your mouth. But there's definitely no one on this dot that's cantankerous. I promise.
Is that so? I thought that was that sounded to me like that was the price of admission.
I think Aaron's got it right.
Yeah, contrarians. Okay, whatever. They used to get agitated at each other, right? So anyway, so Anshe Golo Kanter and Hoyu, Noidrin Hanos, he said they were constantly making the dharm. I'm not going to benefit you, you're not going to benefit me. So they got fed up with this. So Amdo Avesayim.
Why does that sound familiar to this year?
They also obviously did not have any good schnapps in this town.
Right.
Yeah, so Amdu Avesayim, so their fathers got up because of Chalkein the Nasi, and they wrote their chalokim to the Nasi, their portions to the Nasi. Now, I don't know exactly how this went down. How old were these people and how old were their fathers?
How are you doing? Keep going.
How did this work? Right? How did this work? Their fathers wrote it over? Were these guys adults? Like, well, I understand.
No, their great-great-great-great-grandfathers.
They knew, saying, at what point did this happen?
That's 500 years earlier. These people were angry people, and they started being neder on each other. So the whole town decided we're going to write all our nechas into the Nasi, so no one owns anything anymore.
So I mean, it's not literally their fathers, meaning what of the founding fathers of the Galil.
Yeah.
Went and because of this, but it wasn't really their fathers; it was the people from the Galil.
Right.
Okay, so you're
Did
saying
that make peace? See, you
didn't make
down.
No.
Nations down. We're still speaking about it.
probably
they're still
didn't make,
fighting, but they're fighting now over stuff that belongs to the Nasi. It never belonged to them.
but now at least everybody could shower. That's the point. They got a minion in shul. They got a minion in shul now, and they
They
can
got
shower.
a minion in the showers.
But yeah. Anyways, that would be if they weren't fighting. Yeah. So talk to Mishna. Yeah. Next, now there's another. This we had a few times already. Somebody makes a neder to that he's not going to get enough from his friend, but he has nothing to eat. Right? So I don't know what this guy was thinking, but he made a neder. He's not going to benefit from his friend. He had nothing. Now he has nothing to eat. So what are you going to do? So what do? You give the food to somebody else as a present. Here's your harama, right? And the other guy is mutter because now he's not benefiting from you. He's benefiting from somebody else. Meaning Reuven said he's not going to get enough from Shimon. Now Reuven has got no money. So now Shimon's got to get him money. So Shimon goes and gives the food to Levi, and then Levi goes and gives it to Reuven. So therefore, that's not called Reuven benefiting directly from Shimon. He's benefiting from him in a roundabout way. Right? We had this already. Then Maisa ve'echad beis choron. There was a Maisa. Finally, we get to read the story in the Mishna, exactly how it went down. So Maisa ve'echad beis choron. There was a Maisa with a guy in beis choron. Shoya aviv neder emenu hana. Who his father he made a neder. There's all sorts of girsa issues here, but the bottom line is that the kid said his father can't get hana from him, right? The kid said he can't. The father cannot get hana. And then he was he married off his son. Now he felt bad that his father can't come to the chasana because he told his father can't get hana from him. So what did he do? He told his friend, Chatzar v'seuda nesunim are given hinan. Some say it means hinan, some say einan. Right? Lefanecha, they're given to you. Only in order that my father should be able to come and eat the suda. So again, the terminology the guy used is my chatzar and the suda are given to you, so that my father will be able to come join in the chasana. Omar, so the guy who he gave over the whole chasana to said, Im shalihem, if you're taka giving it to me, harehem muktashon l'shamayim, I'm making the whole thing hekdesh, and therefore I'm shutting down your chasana. Right?
Mean thing to do.
It's a mean thing to do, but maybe not. It's like,
I feel like we had this already. We had this.
Yeah,
already.
we had it twice. We didn't have it in the Mishnah. That's what I'm saying. We didn't have it in the Mishnah. The Gemara's referred to it. So finally, we're getting to the actual story here. Yeah, very good. Yeah. So Amar Lei, he said to him, Nasati l'cha es shali shekdishim l'shamayim. I gave you. You think I gave you my whole chasana, so you should be makdish to shamayim? Amar Lei. So he said back to him, Nasata li es shalcha. You gave me yours. Ela shetei atov avicha eichlim v'shaysim v'sratzin zelazeh. The only reason why you gave it to me is so that you and your father can eat and drink together and hopefully get along. But now you want that avera to be on my head, meaning the only reason why you did it, you didn't really mean that your father, the neder is over. You didn't really mean to give this over to me. You just gave it over to me so that you don't look bad. I'm just throwing this part in, that your father's not at your kid's chasana. So you gave it over to me, but you didn't legitimately mean to give it over to me. So now I'm the bad guy because I'm causing your father to be over on a neder. Right? So he said, why should I listen to you? Again, he said to the guy who was making the chasana, said to him, I didn't give it to you to make it hekdesh. And the other guy says back to him, well, then why'd you give it to me for? You gave it to me just to scam the neder? So I should be involved in somebody being over on a neder? You didn't legitimately give it to me.
The Mishna said a minute ago, that's what you do.
What?
The Mishna said a minute
ago. But
ago.
it has to be legit. It has to be legit. Meaning, using the first example of the Mishnah.
Reuven gave it to Shimon.
And then Shimon goes and gives it to
hekdesh.
Right, so then he can't have any tainas. If he has tainas, then the whole thing was a scam. Right? Then the whole thing was a scam. Yeah. Yeah. Fine. So that's the sauce. So that's why they said that was not a legitimate giving. And that's what we said before, that they made takanas because to limit allowing these types of scams, because we're concerned that the guy didn't really mean to give it. Right? Then the Mishnah finishes off. Amru Chachamim, the Chachamim said, Kol matana she'ena she'im hekdesha tehem hekdeshes eina matana. Any matana that won't work if the guy that accepted the matana will make it into hekdesh, then it's not a matana. Meaning it has to be such a strong matana that if the recipient of the matana decides to make it hekdesh, the guy giving it to him cannot complain. If a guy is not willing to, if the guy is not not willing to not complain, meaning if he's going to complain, then it's not a legitimate matan. Right? That's all. So I think Gemara says, Maisa listar, which is exactly what Naftali asked. You first finish saying, give over the thing to somebody else, and then it works. And then you bring a story where it doesn't work. Right? So Maisa listar. So Gemara answers, there's something missing from the Mishnah. If you can prove the end on the beginning, then it's awesome. Meaning, if you can prove that the guy did not legitimately mean to give it over, then it's also. There's a story in Beis Choron where there was a story of Beis Choron where at the end they realized that this guy was not legit. Yeah. So Amar Rava, Loishanu Ella the Amar Le. Right. This is only where they said Vahavina, well, this is either Ve'enon or Vehinon Lefanecha El hekdesh Yave Ava. So there's going to be two gersayos here from Rava. This that we said that it doesn't work and the guy giving it over was not legit. That's where he said I'm only giving it over to you in order that my father should be able to eat at the chasana. Right? Aval Amar Le Shiyu Lefanecha Sheyave Ava. But if he says that it should be in front of you so that my father could come eat, so then he says that's giving it with your das, right? Meaning in the first case, he says, I'm only giving to you Ella, that my father should eat. So then that sounds like it has some strings attached. Therefore, it's no good, right? But if he just says, by the way, I'm being makneh to you in order that my father should be able to come to the wedding, then that's okay, because he was just telling him what his intent was. Right? He's in the first case, he was saying, I'm only giving it to you so that this happens. Second case is no, this is what I'm giving it to you for. But that's it. So then that works. Lishna Achrina, Amrina La, the second lashon is that both are going to be no good. Maybe when he says that that's why I'm giving you it's also but if he says that it's going that I'm giving it to you so that my father can come to the chasana's mutter he didn't say anything about Ella, right, or Aval. He said that this is that your father, that's just that my father should eat, it's still awesome. My time because the Suda proves that the guy is only doing this. He doesn't really mean to be makna his entire wedding Suda over to this guy. He's just doing it so that his father can join the chasana, but we're afraid that it's not legit. So according to the second version of Rava, both cases, in all scenarios, if he mentions anything about his father, it's out. The deal is off.
Can I ask, out of all these cases that we've had in 48 Dafim, why can't he just be mater neder? Like, why do we have to have these cases like, maybe theoretically where it's like Amir La'akum, like you're going around, I really want the light turned on for Shabbos, but I can't do it myself. Like, it just seems so unnecessary. Why do we have to even bother that?
You think mater neder is not an easy thing. We're going around mater neder, but that's not such a simple thing. You can just get up and say, I also did. I matered it. I also did.
No one's saying that it is an easy thing, but it's better to try to be not mater neder than try to all these loopholes that drive. And Lamaisa, they're probably biddy evid anyway.
I agree with you. I agree with
like,
you 100%. When I was learning this Gemara, I was like, really? What are we doing all this? Just be matter the neder. I mean, a guy wants to go to his grandson's chasana for goodness sake, right?
Yeah. Again, and Rip Glanstein is right. Like, it's not such an easy thing, but the reality is, right? Like it's way more lechatchila to do this, right? Like, I don't know.
You're right.
I don't know. Like, I don't know why like we have to go like 10 dafim of like just insane cases. I don't understand it.
Yes, that is yes. Simon, it's a good question. It's a good question. I mean, Rachamim, what you're
These are
saying
the
is also
Torah- these
that
are the
to be
Torah that you
mataneder.
can't just matter.
Who made the neder originally in this case?
The son made the neder on the
The
father.
son, and he wants his father to come to his son's chasana.
Right.
So so hekdesh has a good reason to matter the neder.
I mean, that sounds like a pretty good reason.
No, he should have been a jackass to begin with and asked his father
Yeah.
for eating from him. That's what
Yeah.
Rob's gonna tell him, what's wrong with you? What kind of net? Why did you do
Right.
that to look?
I mean, that's the other
Your
side.
father come into your house to see his grandchildren. What kind of
Right.
person are you?
That's the other side. We literally
You're
went
right.
through this whole arichas,
So
what, 15
Simon,
dafim ago?
he didn't want to get this grief. His Rav was gonna blast him for 4 days.
Yeah.
That he's a jerk. He didn't
Yeah,
want to
this
hear
is-
it. It's easy
this is
for
the
him
mo-
to do this.
This
Didn't
is
we
like the
have
most
that as the reason to be
Agav.
mataneder, you're gonna bother the Rav?
I'm sorry.
We had that in the Gemara that you're gonna cause.
Yeah,
stress
I
to
mean,
the
I mean,
Rav.
they're like you had to give them literally every out, and they had
So
to be
he
as
doesn't want
cantankerous as possible.
He doesn't want to hear this from his Rav of how bad a person he is.
Shkoyach,
does-
so be mataneder.
Well, he needs the Rav to be
No, he
mataneder.
needs the Rav for that.
There's literally
He'd
no one
rather
else in
do
the
this.
world.
He'd
no
rather
one else
give
in the
this
city?
guy.
In the Gemara.
He'd rather give this guy $5,000 worth of brisket than to get beaten up by the Rav. That's what
Only-
he wants. That's what he wants to do.
Only Gaiva can make you do this, man. This is
Maybe the
insane.
father is the Rav.
Well, the guy has
That
a
could be.
problem. That's his relationship with his father, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a good question. But I think you're both right. Your kasha is a good kasha. Racham's also saying that you can't just being mataneder is not a simple thing, but it sure sounds more simple than doing all this. 100%.
Forget about simple, right? Yashras. Like
No, but maybe it's not enough of a reason. Maybe it's not enough of a reason. I don't know. You messed up.
It was it 15 daf ago, 14 daf ago, something like that. It literally went through this whole arichas of like how you give them out after out after out, the ability to get out after out. But no, we're so careful of being mataneder.
Yeah.
somebody who says that to his father, they don't want to give him an out. That's all.
Maybe.
You're right. Right. All those cases had outs. And the guy who does this to his father, they don't want to give him an out.
Maybe. But then the father suffers. Doesn't get to go to the kids. Saying
No, he gets it. They have this
I think,
answer.
but personality is not a reason to disallow something.
Yeah.
Is there any?
Not the neder.
The Ben Shapiro line. Facts don't care about your emotions. I'm
Yeah.
sorry you're a hothead, but the reality is that the law says X.
Fair enough.
It's easier to say that the grandfather, the Zaydim made the neder, getting Hanor from the son, and it's the grandson's who's getting married now. So now he's got a problem. So from the side of the Mechutin, he says, I want Zaidi to be by the chasana. Zaidi made this neder. What do we
Well,
do?
that's why Yisroel Yaakov who made the neder.
No, the
They
Zayd
didn't make the neder. That's what I
The
asked.
son made it. The son made the
That's why
neder.
I
on the
asked.
land.
Yeah, but it
I
could
mean,
go
it's
either
part-
way. It's just it maybe works out better if the Zayd made it.
Tiago, I think
I
we
think
we do
My
the
off the
recap
Derek
after the
son,
daf.
one day he said, my off the Derek son, I don't ever get anything off of him.
Well,
Meanwhile,
that's
he went off the Derek, he went on the Derek, he had got married or something, he had a kid, and now the kid's getting married.
Beautiful story.
You know?
that's the story coming up now. So now we get the next story. Let's see weiter. Yeah. On to beis now. So who gavra? To have a bro, to have a shomet kipi the kisna. He had a son who was ripping off people's flax. Right? I mean, at least that's the way the Ran says it. Yeah. And the Taisa says he wasn't really stealing it, he was just destroying it. Right? Okay, no, he had a son that needed ADHD medication. Bottom line is that's what it sounds like. Yeah. So bro to have a shamet kipi the kisna. He was messing up with everybody's flax. So the father said, you know what? You're out. He disowned him. So Amalei says, so they said to the father, what happens if you're going to have an anakel who's very learned? Right? So now what are you going to do? You're not going to be able to support him because you answered everything to your son. So Amr Lahan, so he said to them, okay, here's what am I going to do. Likni Hadain. I'm going to give him half. I don't know why the Gemara is assuming that he had two sons, a regular son that he liked and a son he didn't like. So he said, Likni Hadain, maybe it's this week's Parsha Taka. Taka, very good, Naftali. Right? Likni Hadain, give it to this, I'm going to give it to this one, to the son, V'havoi that he doesn't like, V'havoi barbarei tzur rabana l'kanya, and if he has a son who's a Talmud Chacham, then he's going to be kinyan, right? Meaning, basically, what he's doing is he's giving him his son, who he asked from benefiting from him. He gave him half the Yerusha, but he said only on condition that if your son is a learned fellow, then that half is going to you, and if he's not a learned fellow, then the other half is going back to the other brother. Right?
See,
Again,
Yaakov,
yeah.
So whoever said, Naftali or Jesse, Yaakov Avinu really lucked out with his Katanis passing because most of the brothers wanted to kill him. They're passing, they're going to kill him. Just one brother saved his life. Otherwise, he was dead meat.
Right.
You know?
That's true. That's true. But yeah. So anyway, so that's again. He said, I'm going to give one portion to my good son, and the other portion I'm giving to the bad son. But tonight, that if his son is what do you call it? If his grandson becomes a good guy, right? Then he gets to give over his Yerusha to that grandson. Meaning the son that's bad is not, he's out of the picture. Just he's saying that I'm giving it to him now, that in the future he'll be able to give it to his son, right? So Gemara says, so what's the bottom line? What's the din in this case? So Amri Pumpadisa, Kani Amanas Lahaknasu, that's called being kind of something on condition to be maknit to somebody else. Kani Amanas Lahaknas, Loi Kani. If you're kind of something on condition to be maknit to somebody else later on, that doesn't work. Similar to a amatana manas lahachser, right? So, meaning you can't be kind of something on behalf of somebody else at a later time. That's the way Pumpadisa is saying it, right? But Rav Nachman Amar, no, Rav Nachman disagrees. He says, Kani, he is kind of to Hasudra, because you have a sudar, which is a handkerchief, right? Kani amanas lahaknazu, that's a kinyan on a t'nai that you're going to be makneh to somebody else. Now, the basic example of what Rav Nachman is saying is what do we all do by mechiras chametz, right? Even though mechiras chametz is not a kinyan, but essentially that's what we're doing. When the rabbi picks up the handkerchief or the pen, right, and he gives it to you, he's giving you his pen. And now in exchange of that pen, you're giving him the rights to the chametz. Can you keep the pen from the rabbi? Right? Can you keep it?
Depends what year you gave it out.
That's true. In Corona, we gave out the pens. But I'm saying normally, if he takes off the yarmulke of the rabbi and gives it to you, can you just take the yarmulke and run? No.
No. What if you do it by accident? Like you just put the pen in your pocket and you realize that a half hour later, I got the pen in my pocket.
So it really belongs to the rabbi. It really belongs to the rabbi. So, because essentially what you're doing is you're being makneh him. The rabbi is giving him the pen, and he is giving the rabbi back the pen. So essentially what's going on here is that you're being makneh something to somebody to be makneh to somebody else, and it works. Right? So Rav Nachman says that's the same thing that's going on here. The father is giving it to the son, who he disowned, who will eventually give it over to his son if his son's a good guy. So he's saying a raya from the way it works between the rabbi and the constituent, right? The rabbi gives him the pen on the condition, well, it's not really a condition, but it's an unwritten condition that the guy's going to give it back, and he's kind of it, right? And then in exchange, he gives something else back. So you see that you can be kind of something on condition to be makneh to somebody else, right? So yeah, so that's the Machlokes. So again, Pumpadisa holds you can't do it, or Nachman holds you can't do it. Now there's a barrage.
It's putting something in like a state of trust considered putting it in his rishus as like he was mekane it? If the grandfather's giving it to the grandson, but it has to be at least, Bismana said you have to be a minor, right? Or you have to be of age to take things on. Until then, your parents have to take, if you're a minor, your parents have to take control of certain things. So are the parents really mekane like a bank account or a trust or something like that, or are they just kind of watching it until it matures?
I don't think that has to do with maturity or what age the kid is. It
You're
has to
saying
do
that the
with-
kid, you're saying that he's a, what do you call it?
He's not of
Trustee,
age.
like a trustee.
A trustee, a trust. When I say matures, until the length of time matures to get to that point where the kid can take it over, or he becomes a Talmud
Right. So it's
Chacham.
for some reason, we're not looking at it like it's that, like he's a trustee. We're looking at it like he's actually giving it over to his son, but his son can't keep it because his son was disowned. Right. So it's just a matter of the son owning it, but he's not allowed to benefit from it, but he only owns it on condition that he gives it to him later. Right? If the kid is a good guy.
So then he can use it.
No, but he can't use it. That's the thing. The kinyan is going through the son, but he can't use it. You're right. Why not just be mater? Back to your original question. Why not just be mater neder?
I'm having a hard time
right.
seeing what the difference would be, if I'm honest, but whatever.
Okay, it's a good thing. It's good to be honest. But I'm not saying I understand it fully either, but it seems like that's what's going on here. You're giving it to the son. He can't benefit from it. He can only give it over to the grandson if the grandson's a good guy. That's what you have to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's a machlokes.
You have to entertain the savora. The Gemara gives us this because you have to entertain that there could be such a situation. And it's always easy to say mater neder. But the truth is, you have to understand, what if you don't want to be mater neder? You want to keep your neder and you want to be
You want to scam the system.
So over
Right.
here, this is a hekdesh that I want to give it to the grandson, but not to the son,
Yeah.
You have to entertain it. It's got to exist.
Entertaining it is, that's for sure.
That's not what I meant.
I know.
Here's my mute button.
Anyway, so you want to mute me. Okay, so now the Gemara asks a few shilas on Rav Nachman. Again, Rav Nachman holds that the kinyan does work, and he learns it out from the rabbi or anybody taking the sudar, the handkerchief, and in exchange giving it back. So that's like an automatic give back. So that's exactly what David Spira was asking. Who says that I can't grab onto it if I want? Right? Let's say I do take off with the rabbi's yarmulke or his pen. Who says that who says I can't do that? Right? Meaning the minig is to give it back, but it's because we're nice guys. Right? But if I'm not a nice guy, then I don't have to. So who says it's an automatic? Meaning in Memela, the kasha is, who says that I can give it to the son who I disowned to eventually give it to the other son? Who says? That's question number one. Sudra kani amanas lahaknois v'kani min hashta. Meaning when you give over the handkerchief, so you're giving it over, and then you coin it right away. Meaning when you give the handkerchief, what you do with the handkerchief is the second the handkerchief gets given over from the first party to the second party, then there's an automatic transfer of the property, right? Meaning when the Rav gives the yarmulke over to the guy for the chametz, then instantly the guy's chametz becomes part of, it doesn't go to the Rav, but meaning he has the rights to do whatever he wants with the chametz. That's an instant transfer, as they say. Right? Halon, but here, Nichsin Hadein, these belongings, Leimasaikani, when is the grandson, when is the son going to be kaineh? Lechihavi bar breitz or rabbanon, meaning when is the son? The son's not being kaineh now. The son is only being kaineh when the grandson gets smicha. Right? Then he's going to be kaineh. Where's the handkerchief then? So Lechihava right? When he gives back the sudr to the original guy, meaning, I'm sorry, not when, it's already given back, right? Meaning, how's he being makneh to the son? Let's say he's giving him a handkerchief, and he says, by the way, if your son becomes a Talmud Chacham, then with this handkerchief, the stuff's going to your son, right? Meaning to the grandson. But then the handkerchief was already given back. So the kinyan is happening much later. It's not happening at the same time. So again, essentially the kasha is when you're doing a kinyan with a handkerchief, the kinyan, the transfer happens immediately. Here, with the grandson, it's not happening immediately. It could happen in 40 years, right? That's kasha number 2. Kasha number 3, in the case of the guy with the chasana, the kinyan manas lahaknazu, the guy that he gave over the entire chasana to was giving it to him on condition that the father should be able to eat there, and he said he's not kinyan. So you see that a person can't be kinyan something to eventually be makneh to somebody else. So our answer is Zimnin Amrale. So sometimes they answered him. Seems like they had this question and answer a bunch of times, right? So Zimnin Amrale Mishum the Sudas and Mechagaslav. You can't bring rayas on this last kasha. He said you can't bring rayas because by the chasana, the reason why we say it doesn't work is because the suuda is very clear that the only reason why he wants his father so he wants to be makna the whole suuda of the chasana to this guy is that his father can eat there. No, nothing more than that. The Zimnin Amrale, and the other time he said Rebbe Eliezer, it's going to Rebbe Eliezer the Amar. We had this way back. Afilu vitur also b'madana. Rebbe Eliezer says that even vitur, even extra things, is also when somebody has a neder of hana from somebody. Even Rebbe Eliezer says that even the extra stuff he's not allowed to accept from him. Right? So meaning even though here we're not talking about vitur, we're talking about regular things. Meaning the way the Ran explains it is by dinei mominus, if I'm allowed to walk into somebody else's field and I'm not considered a ganav, right? I'm allowed to walk into anybody's field I want because I'm not taking anything. I'm just walking the field. But if you made a neder against the guy, then you're not allowed to walk into the field, right? So that's what he's saying is the same sort of mashal over here. That since there's a neder of hana, it's much worse. Fine. So then the Gemara asks,
walking into anyone's field, you're allowed to. It's not considered hana. If you're allowed to. We had the knocking on one neighbor's door instead of another. It's not the same thing as that.
what do you mean?
If you have to borrow a hammer, you made a neder, it's the neighbor on the right, and not the neighbor on the left, but you can go to the neighbor on the right.
Yeah.
How's that any different walking?
No, but that's okay. That's a little different thing. But here, basically what he's saying is that you see that by regular nezikin, if you walk into somebody's field, you're not chayiv for anything for not neighbor. But if the guy made a neder, then you're not allowed to walk in, right? So the same thing here. If I wanted to be makna somebody something that eventually he'll be makna to somebody else, that works, right? But not if he's not if he makes a neder. So you're saying you can't compare nedarim to kinyanim. That's basically the way I understand it in a very simplified way. It's very late, so let's finish. Kol matana she'ena she'em hekdesha tehei mukdeshes eina matana. Right, the last line of the Mishna says that any matana that will not be a matana if the guy makes it into hekdesh, then that's not a matana. So kol asuye mai. What's kol coming to include? Lav lasuye hamilsa the shad yivakipi. Is it not coming to include the case of the guy who was stealing the flax, right? And meaning it's not a good kinyan. So the Gemara answers, it's not coming to include the case of the flax that the kinyan doesn't work. It's coming to include the second case of Rava, which was that Rava said that any sort of inference of this guy by the chasana telling his friend that the reason why he's giving it to him is because he wants to feed his father by the chasana, any inference of that is, or any reference to that makes the whole thing no good. So that's what the Gemara meant by kol matana that won't be, if you make it into hekdesh, it will be mikudeshes. So basically, the Gemara again is leaving off with, we have no idea if the case where the kid goes and steals and the father disowns him, but maybe he wants to give the grandson, if the grandson becomes educated, he wants to give him the belongings. We end up without an answer of whether that can work or not. Okay, Hadran Allah Shutfin. Everybody should have a fine night. The next few dafim are much easier. All right, much easier. So, and Gishmak too. So have yourself l'chaim, Jesse, l'chaim, parrots, wherever and whenever you listen to this. All right. Sag gesund. I don't know.
Shikayach.
Come back to get the.
Oh man, this stuff is a little not so pashut. Not so pashut at all.
I understand about like having to entertain the concepts, but like I don't know, like what about entertaining